Welcome back. Yesterday, when I was giving the session and I was trying to modify the code on the fly to make it optimized, and I was not satisfied with what I was showing yesterday. So, for that, I will continue this video and upload to the session number 3. So, you can have a reference and also upload the code in LinkedIn articles, and it will be published tomorrow. So, you can use that code and try it for yourself. So, what we were doing yesterday was we were trying to create a folder structure in Marketing Cloud under the data extension, and we want to organize our folder structure based on campaigns, and the campaigns are categorized as B2B, B2C, and transactional, as you are being seen, uh, that you can see in the diagram that I have drawn here. So what happens is we have a root folder called data extension. Under the data extension, we'll have a subfolder called campaigns, and under the campaigns, we'll have 3 different subfolders: B2B, B2C, and transactional. And below these subfolders, we'll have different data extensions called profile, tracking, and consents. Okay. And similarly, the similar data extensions for profile, whatever the structure is defined for B2B, the similar structure will be defined for B2C, tracking and consents, and similar for the transactional. Uh, so what we need to do is currently in our business unit, we'll have the default root folder as data extension. And then first we need to define and create the campaigns subfolder, right? So first we need to create a subfolder for campaigns using SSJS. And what are the prerequisites that you need to have to create a folder is to know the category ID of the parent folder. The parent folder is the root folder data extension. So let me jump to the documentation, right? So I'm here in the documentation for the folder functions, okay? And let me go to add. And here, if you see an example that what they have given here, okay, they have defined a new folder variable, and inside that variable, they have defined all the properties, right? And the most important part, you can give any name, give a unique customer key, okay, give a description, the content type. Here, they're saying that they're building an email, but here I'll be using data extension because we are discussing data extension. Okay, is active. We always make it true. Editable if you want to give others to edit, right? Or your team members to edit, you can make it true. Allow children. If you don't want to allow others to create another subfolder below that folder, then you make it false. Otherwise, we make it true. But most important thing is the getting the parent folder category ID. Okay. So, and then we use folder that add function and give the attribute properties here, and then it will create a folder. Fine. So if you want to see the folder properties, you can go to this documentation for objects. Okay. And under the folder, you can see what it contains. So here it only gives value, name, parent ID. Not all properties are defined here, but from here you can see there are a lot of other different properties. Okay. So I'm not sure why they haven't defined other properties inside this particular object. Anyway, so if you go back to this diagram, so first my intention is to create a folder named campaigns. And the prerequisite for creating the campaign is the category ID, the folder ID of the parent folder, right? So the first method that I need to do is to retrieve the category ID of the parent folder. So if I again go back to this official documentation, go to retrieve, right? If I go to retrieve and I use the function folder that retrieve with certain filter conditions, okay? It is definitely, they haven't given me the what will be the response, but definitely it will pass me those attributes related to that particular folder. So to retrieve folder that retrieve, what I'm going to do, I'm going to retrieve the uh, folder for the root folder, that is data extension, right? So let create a code resource. Okay. And this is my basic structure for creating an SSJS. And here first, because see here, if I go back to the diagram, I need to create a folder named campaigns, and below the campaigns, I need to create another 3 subfolders, right? So for creating B2B, we also require the folder ID for campaigns. So that particular function, this one, folder that retrieve, it will be reused again and again, right? So it's better. What we do is we create a function to retrieve the parent folder category ID. Okay. So here I have created a function. Let me copy this one and paste it here. Okay. So what this function does here, I have written a function called retrieve category ID for a folder. Okay. For any folder, you can retrieve the category ID. And I'm passing two parameters, name and content type. So name is, so what I'm doing here is retrieve a folder means you have folders inside automations, you have folders inside data extension, you have folder inside journey, you have folder inside content builder, right? And many different places. So if you're giving, say, this example here, the filter that is being used is property means name, simple operator equals value equals to my email. So here in this example, what they are trying to do is they are trying to find a folder with the name my emails, okay, with the name. So I can do by customer key and give the customer key, supply the customer key. So you have just used, but if you have my emails inside data extension, so it is going to retrieve this particular folder from data extension as well. So for that purpose, what we do is we create two different filters, not only a single filter, but two different filters. One filter is by property name equals the name that we supply. Okay. And the second property that I'm using is content type equals content type. I'm going to basically say if I have to search for this root folder data extensions. Okay. Here, what I'm going to do is first, this will be I'll search by name, content type as data extension. Okay. This name is basically data extension. So I'm supplying your property value. Okay. The property name I've already defined. I'll search by name, where name equals to data extension. That's the root folder. And the content type is property to content type equals data extension. So it will make a filter condition here. Okay. Property by name, simple operator equals value equals to data extensions. And then another filter by property name to, that will be property equals to content type, simple operator equals, and value equals to data extension. So based on these two different filters, we are going to create a complex filter and make the filter one as the left operand, logical operator will be and the right operator will be filter two. So based on these two filters, I'm trying to define or retrieve on the folder and get the category ID, right? So if I just run this function, okay, then I'm going to get retrieve the data extension. So now what next? I can then after that I can create a folder. So to create a folder again, let's go back to the documentation. Here I have a function, okay, called folder.add and define the attribute properties to define that particular folder. We need the name, customer key, description, and blah blah blah. Right. So I need now I also need to create not only the campaign, but I need to create B2B, B2C, and transactional folders. Right. So again, the same function can be reused in different for different calls. Right. So what I've done here is now I have a second function that I've created is create a folder. Okay, so let me go here and let me add it here. Okay, and here what I passed is basically I have passed all the attributes that are required for creating a folder, the minimum attributes that are required. So I pass the name if you want to have your own customer key, right? So you can pass the customer key, description, content type. As we are creating data extension folder, it will be always data extension, but this can be reused to create content type as assets, emails, and so on. Okay. All our children is whether you are creating a folder that will allow another subfolder. Okay. And the parent category ID as we discussed that to create folder, we need the parent folder category ID, right? And based on these parameters, these particular attributes will be created, okay? And this config will be passing to folder that add, and a new folder will be created, and it will return as the status. Similarly, here I have the last statement is return the ID, okay? So well and good for now. So we have to create a folder, right? Now I can from this I can inside this function here, okay, inside this function folder that add, I could have basically simply from this parent folder ID, I could have simply called this function retrieve category for folder here itself, right? Passing all this name and content type that would done, but here the number of parameters would have increased. So I've limited that scope here. Okay. So there will be more other functions based on this use case that we are designing. So we have now from these two functions, we can definitely create all this. So we can create campaign folder, B2B, B2C, and transactional. But we need to create data extension for B2B, profile data extension for B2C, and profile data extension for transactional, right? Now, if I go back and let's go to the data extension function, okay, and we have this, and then we have this, let's go back to data extension function. Okay, I click something else. Let's me go back. Yeah. So data extension function dot add. So similarly, like folder dot add, we have data extension dot add. Okay. And here we also have the customer key, the name, and the fields we have to define for creating a data extension. So these fields, like say this fields particular properties might vary based on profile tracking and all, right? So for this, what I've done is I've created another function for this config. Okay. So and here what I've also done is not only I've used normal SSJS function, but I'm creating data extension inside a subfolder, particular location, right? So when I do WX proxy to create a data extension, I basically need to know the category ID of the folder where I want to build the data extension. So the first function here, okay, is similar to the retrieve function. I could have basically used that particular function also to get the category ID. Similar to this, okay. Uh, we could have used this one as well, okay. But anyway, there is another way to do it. Where just simply we always know, right? But this might like similarly what I said in the previous example of this retrieve the category ID. Here, if here what you're doing, okay, let's go slow. Okay. Your retrieve category ID for a data extension creation. If I have given the name explicitly, property you can give it by customer key, or you can give a name or any other attributes for that particular folder. Okay, and you pass the value. So I'm saying property equals to name, folder value equals to. So if I want to create a data extension, so it's B2B, right? So I can say property equals to name and value equals to B2B, and then it will go and retrieve the folder. Okay, and it will add this filter here, and it will give me the ID and the name. So the first function could have sufficed. But anyway, I have already created it and I'm going to use this function. So you have two different ways of creating one, but this one is more optimal way. I think is a more efficient way to retrieve the category ID. Okay. So what I was saying next was the next function was to create a data extension. Okay, to WS proxy. Yeah, as I told you, this field, coming to this field configuration later. Okay, so now I'm moving to WS proxy. Let me again copy this. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm saying create data extension and passing the config. Those config will be related to this configuration. Like we are passing the customer key, name, and fields and other things that we'll be doing. Okay, like if you go to create sendable data extension, you have to have the sendable info relates to, and all this you have to basically pass there. So all those configuration will be discussing as well. Here what I've done is I've created a function called create data extension and passing the configuration. So here I'm setting a WS proxy object. So where API equals to new script dot util dot WS proxy. So I'm creating a proxy object. Here I'm creating giving the MID. So for this business unit, it will fetch the MID and assign it here. Okay, and then the config that I passed, based on that config, a data extension will be created using API that create item. So WS proxy that create item, and it will create the data extension for us. Okay, and then for safer purpose, I always try to reset, because here I'll be using to create different data extensions. Okay, so if you are using to create data extension for the from the parent to the child and to different childs, right? So you need to keep on updating the MIDs. For that, I have used even the reset client ID just for safety purpose, as I'm saying again. And we're returning what is the result. Okay. So now the main part of creating a data extension is the configuration or the properties that we need to define to create the data extension. So I said I need to create the profile data extension. Okay. So here I copy this other function. So all these functions are basically reusable functions. Okay. So if anything, any errors or anything that do occur, we can simply go to the part of that function and we can modify. We don't have to touch other functions. So our code maintenance becomes much easier in a long run. Okay. So here what I'm doing is I created another function called define profile data extension. So I'm creating a profile data extension, and here I'm passing the customer key, which always has to be unique in your instance, in your business unit. Okay. You have to give a unique name as well. And this property name and property value, I'm coming here. Okay. So first I'll jump to this, why I have added these two other properties here, is to basically, uh, if you see here, the category ID. So where should I build this data extension? I have to define the category ID, the category ID of that particular folder. So here, the folder that I've used here, the function, basically this retrieve the category ID for the data extension creation, right? That I've used here, and pass the, like say, if I want to create profile under B2B, so I have to pass property as name and property value as B2B. So it's going to fetch the category ID of this B2B folder. Okay. But yeah, I could have used this one as well, giving the name and content type. So I would pass, if I simply had passed name as B2B and content type as data extension, then it could have also fetched me the category ID. So both the functions can be used. Okay. So that's the reason I have used these two prop name and prop value as well. So customer key is simply implies I need to pass the customer key here and the name. Okay. And the similar structure, like the similar data extension has to be created on the B2C. So if I call this function define profile data extension, then what I can do is I can even pass the customer key. Okay. a unique customer key, unique name, and I say prop name equals to name, prop val is equal to B2C. Then it will create me a data extension with all these attributes under B2C. So similar with transactional, right? This prop name and prop val becomes transactional. Okay. And then we have another data extension called tracking. So similarly, as we defined it for profile, we'll create another configuration for tracking. Okay. So I have another function that defines data extension for tracking. Same parameters, customer key, name, prop, and val. Okay. But here, the only difference between these two is the fields configuration. So if you see here, the fields are first name, last name, subscriber key, and the email address. Okay. And here we have event type, event date, subscriber key, and email address. Okay. So is for the email tracking data extension, right? So I have just created. So how many functions I have already created, which can be reused again and again. One is to retrieve the category ID, which is similar to the one that I doing for data extension as well. Okay. And the one is to create a folder. Two, another one is the category ID similar to the, so this third and the first is more or less the same. Okay. There I have added extra filter to make it a complex filter. Okay. This three, this the SOAP API WS proxy. So via WS proxy, we are creating the data extension. The advantage here creating with WS proxy is we can also define the category ID where we need to create the folder, right? And this was number 4, 5. Then other one was to define the profile attribute, profile data extension configuration, and the other one is tracking. So now we can directly jump to the try and catch block and start executing those functions. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is to get the root folder data extension category ID, right? So, so the parent folder definition, I'm trying to face the, here I said retrieve category ID for a folder with the name data extension and the content type data extension. That is the function number 1, right? Now I need to create the campaigns data extension. Okay. So here I got this parent category ID. Okay. So I'm creating the campaigns folder. So here I said create a folder based on this. So this is the second function. If you go up, this is the create a folder. We are passing the names, customer key, description, and all this. So I'm passing all those values here. Okay. Campaigns. This is the campaigns. I'm creating this one. Okay. Campaigns. This is the customer key, name, description. Okay. Type of folder. This will reside under the data extension. Okay. All our children is true because I have to create these subfolders as well, B2B, B2C, and transactional. And this, where I need to create this folder is below the root folder, that is data extension. Okay. If I go to data extension, and if you see, we don't have the campaigns under this root folder data extension, right? So once we execute this, below this data extension, there will be another folder called campaigns, right? So based on this, it will create a folder and give us the status. Okay. After that, this would have done to create the campaigns. Now this line from this line, okay, uh, I'm defining B2C. Okay. So let's just copy all this line, and below this, Let me paste it here. I haven't said line number 192 what is doing. Okay. So it's basically retrieving the campaign's category ID. So what is the category ID that we created? We created this campaign. We'll create this campaign and fetch the category ID. Okay, the folder ID for these campaigns. And since we are creating B2B, B2C, and transactional, we need the category ID of the parent folder, that is campaign. So that's why retrieve category ID for a folder and set campaigns, and it's under the category data extension. So it will fetch here, and we need to create the B2B data extension, this B2B, right? So here I'm saying create a folder, B2B, customer key B2B, description B2B campaign folder, inside data extension, all our subchildren. You can pass it. If you want to restrict, nobody should come and create another subfolder. You can make it false. And this is the parent folder, which is for the campaigns. So it's fetching the campaign. Okay. And once this folder gets created, okay, then we can call the define profile data extension. So this data extension with first name, last name, subscribe key, email address would be created. Okay, where it will be created with the customer key as subscriber with B2B profile. Okay, name as B2B profile. Okay, and search for a folder with the name B2B. So under B2B, this particular B2B profile data extension would be created. Similarly, we can do it for tracking, B2B tracking, okay, under B2B, right? Well and good. So similarly, we can do this for B2C. Okay, so see, we are using the same function. We are not writing the same function inside the main function, right? So we are creating a folder called B2B, a B2C, and we're creating the data extension called B2C profile, okay? And then we're creating B2C tracking. So similarly, we can create a folder and data extension for tracking transactional campaigns. Okay, so we are creating a folder called transactional. We are creating a data extension called transactional profile, and we are creating another data extension called transactional tracking. That's it, right? Everything looks decent. Let me save and let me publish. Okay, we can come and refresh the data extension before we hit the URL to validate whether we have the campaigns and other subfolders inside the data extension or not. So here, right, we have Query Studio, Test, Archive, SSJS, but we don't have campaigns. So let's go and hit this. Okay, so for OK means I have basically written here, like, if this is successful, give me the status. If this part is successful, so this one was just to create a folder called campaigns. So that's why it's OK. Okay. This one is to create the B2B folder and say OK, and this is B2C and this transactional. That's why we have 4 OK here. Just this was to see whether it is executing properly or not. Let's refresh this and see if those folders are created or not, and also the data extensions. Data extensions and campaigns. Okay. B2C, B2B, B2B profile and tracking, right? Let's go. So you can see this created today, just now. Okay, it's first name, last name, subscriber key, email address, and then we have B2B tracking, event type, event date, subscriber key, email address. Well and good. So similarly for B2C and for transactional. So I hope this will help with what we were doing, what we are discussing in the session 3, right? Thank you for watching, everyone. And if you have any similar use cases that you want to build and you want to explain to me, or you want to ask me how to build it, please comment on the video. I'll try to create similar videos and upload it in the YouTube.